Welcome back, everyone, to CMN 153. And this is, believe it or not, our final class before the final examination. So, this is for Tuesday, the 24th of August, where we are talking about gaming. But I wanted to also draw your attention to the notes underneath the video. And you can see that I've collected some articles over the summertime, this particular summer, that I thought were particularly relevant in terms of some of the topics that we've been discussing over the course of this semester. And the first article, you can see there are links for all of these. It's about the movie Business is Dead, where Movie Mongol was basically interviewed and discussed from his perception that streaming has led to the decline and even the death of the movie industry as it was once known, at least in terms of theaters and movie houses. From his perspective, that there's also been a rather rapid decline in quality because of the need for and desire for profit. The second article is about an internet outage that occurred during this summer, which I think illustrates the fragility of the internet. It's something that we take for granted and we assume it'll always be there, but that isn't necessarily always the case. And some of the dangers of the increasing centralization of what's supposed to be a decentralized network. And the outage occurred because of cloud computing difficulty, and where basically dozens of websites, some of them rather large websites, went down immediately and stayed down for a good number of hours. TikTok and books is about the interesting trend of TikTok in terms of book sales in a very positive way, where individuals have been posting TikTok videos giving their recommendations of books. It almost reminds me of the Oprah Book Club back in the day. But these individuals, who I suppose you could call influencers, have been basically leading to increased book sales depending on the book that they happen to support. And then lastly, Facebook and political ads, and how Facebook shut down the accounts of two academic researchers who were doing research into the misinformation that occurs through political ads posted on Facebook. And I think that article speaks for itself and some of the challenges and dangers that we've been experiencing in media in the last several years or so. So if you'll also look at the notes below, our schedule is our last class would be Thursday on the 26th. This is when your final project is due if you haven't already submitted in your final project. Thanks to you who have already submitted in the final project. Also, this is the last date in which I will accept any outstanding journals. If you're not certain if you have an outstanding journal, feel free to contact me and I'll be happy to let you know. I will also be posting the final exam on the 26th on our class time. And you have 24 hours in which to take that final exam. And that means the final exam would be due on the Friday, the 27th at 1 p.m. Now, the final, if we were taking it in person, would be a 3-hour examination. So you should set aside anywhere between 2 to 3 hours to take the final. You certainly don't need to take 24 hours for the final. And the final is an open book, open note essay examination where you get choice. And then finally, what I wanted to do was to talk about games. And in some ways, games is similar to music in the sense that games and music have existed since the beginning of time. So this is part of our ancient past. However, in terms of a media vehicle that's influenced the masses, it probably is something that is much later, much like we saw with music. In terms of games and just defining what a game is, there are certain elements associated with what makes a game, that there is an uncertainty of outcome, that there are agreed upon rules, that there is competition involved, that there are elements of fiction as well as elements of chance involved in the game. The game has a prescribed goal, and hopefully the game leads to personal enjoyment. However, games can also be educational as well. The trend with games, just like we've seen with the trend for so many other kinds of media vehicles, has been more immersive experiences. And to give you an idea of the history of games, and this was discussed in our textbook, I guess it would begin in the 1800s, where we've got large groups of individuals, or at least larger groups of individuals, who were able to play on mechanical coin operated games. This is where you've got things like penny arcades, pinball machines, things of that nature. 1960s would be the beginnings of the computer video game. The 1970s is where we've got arcades, where you've got locations with multiple coin operated games. And also, this would be the beginnings of home consoles, Atari's Pong being one of the first. And I myself remember being a young child and being quite excited over Pong. It seems incredibly simplistic now. Basically, all you've got are dots and dashes that are supposed to be representational. But at the time, it was viewed as revolutionary because we didn't have anything like the graphics that obviously we take for granted today. The 1980s began the introduction of avatars, where you've got graphic interactive characters, and that's something that still is being refined today. 1990s is where we've got Sony PlayStation consoles. This became very important because ultimately now we've got a level of sophistication to gaming that could be brought into the household. 1999 is where we've got the Sega Dreamcast. This was the first console with a modem, also incredibly important for our future in terms of online gaming. In the 2000s, we've got wireless motion sensing controllers. So like Nintendo's Wii, for instance, or Microsoft's Xbox, which allowed for, again, online play and much larger groups of individuals interacting concurrently. 2010s is where we get a term to actually label this, the massive multiplayer online role-playing games. And these were games like World of Warcraft, Second Life, which was a virtual world simulation, and more often than not subscription-based. And then we see, as we've seen with all of the other media this semester, convergence. And we see how mobile gaming and console entertainment centers basically are merging. The genres are very similar to what you might find in film or what you might find in television, in that they appeal to different tastes and to different demographic groups. So action games like Halo, adventure games like Myst, role-playing games like Final Fantasy, simulation games like SimCity, games for music, for sports, for dance, you name an interest, and there's probably a game that's associated with it. And then the gaming communities that resulted, and not only in person, but also virtually, whether it be through conventions or whether it be through the actual playing of the games itself. And games have had an incredible influence on other media as well. Think about things like TV or film is a great example, where you've got Resident Evil that started as a game and basically was translated over into the film world. And basically what we've got here is a kind of synergy where the film helps the game and the game helps the film. Definitely cons associated with gaming, just like any media. It can be addictive. It oftentimes has been classified as violent, misogynistic, and sedentary. And also, like many media, there are lots of pros associated with it. It can lead to cognitive development, motivational and emotional development, social skill development. The future, as has been predicted with the internet itself, is about virtual reality. And that was the video that I wanted you to watch today a little bit about how from 2019, so it's slightly dated, talking about how video games will be transformative in the future. And this is approximately a 15-minute or so TED Talk. And the individual talks about video games and their future and his perception of some of the positives associated with the future of video games. And what I did was I selected a quote from his presentation, and I thought that could be today's attendance question. And that'll be our last attendance question that you would be answering on our class discussion forum. And this would be for Wednesday, the 25th by 1 p.m. Do you agree or disagree with the speaker's claim in his TED Talk, The Transformative Power of Video Games, that, quote, one of the biggest, most impactful changes in the way we live our lives is about to come from video games. So I'd be curious to see whether or not you think that video games are going to have the kind of gravitas that he believes they will have in the future. Again, this is predictive, so there really is no way to know. But we know that he posted this in 2019, and or this presentation was posted in 2019, I should say, and a couple of years have gone by, so you can reflect on what the last 2 years have brought and what you think the next 3 years are likely to bring. So the only thing that really is left is for me to thank you all for taking this class in this very challenging time, and my hope is that the next time we meet, it will be in person. I hope you're all doing well. I am doing well. Do stay safe and sound, and next class I will post the final examination. Again, thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.